I like to think of tracking a little bit like a blood panel. I believe that it can reveal super helpful data that we can then take action on to improve our health and make body composition change if we choose to. But when we become dependent on it, we have then taken a potentially helpful tool and turned it into a harmful one. So again, tracking apps, totally neutral. I think we have to assess how we're using them and why we're using them.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, welcome back to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm Jenn Trepeck, your health coach and host, here with you every week for wellness without the weirdness. Now, you may recall an episode we did from August of 2023 about tracking without counting macros, calories, or points. And today's conversation is really building on that. And I have a wonderful expert joining us. So allow me to introduce you. She is a nutrition coach, host of the podcast, the Health, Wealth, and Wisdom podcast, and a new mom. Driven by her own journey of recovering from a years-long eating disorder and healing her own relationship with food, she's found her calling to help other women unsubscribe from the toxic diet culture, find food freedom, and reach sustainable fat loss without deprivation, shame, or guilt. Today, 10 plus years later, she has a master's in nutrition, physical activity, and public health, alongside countless other degrees, various podcast and media features, and a successful business where she has helped hundreds of women leave yo-yo dieting and toxic diet culture behind so they can live the happiest, healthiest lives. Sound familiar? Yes, she and I are absolutely cut from the same cloth. So without further ado, I give you Nicole Hagen.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, what an introduction. I feel honored to be here. Thank you, Jenn.
Yeah, welcome officially to Salad with a Side of Fries. And for anybody listening, if you're not familiar with Nicole's podcast, Health, Wealth, and Wisdom, by the way, wealth is WELLTH, highly recommend. Shameless plug. Episode 239 from September of 2023, Nicole hosted me on her show. We talked all about what to do when it feels like you don't have enough willpower.
Yes, definitely go back and plug into that episode. It was a great conversation.
It was. And I want to start with your story, and then we'll talk about all the things unsubscribing today. Really quick, though, let's tell our members what they're getting. So members, you're getting recipes this week, plural. So first, in honor of March Madness, you're getting buffalo chicken meatballs. Then with it, I'm sending you 2 dips or sauces. One is for yogurt blue cheese dip, and the other is for Greek yogurt ranch. So perfect whether you're having people over to watch college basketball or just in the mood for bar food flavors, this one has you. And since March is the last month of the quarter, it's time for your quarterly live Q&A. We're doing it as a one-on-one. I have loved the conversations that we've had so far. So if you haven't booked your time yet, this week is the last week to book it. So make sure there are still times available in April, so don't worry, but make sure you book it this week. So if you want these recipes or a chat just you and me, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool like today, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal, dare I say a steal, when you take advantage of the full offerings. You save far more than that $10 cost. I say it every time. It is a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so we can continue to bring you new episodes and experts every week. Okay, so you're going to go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the show notes because it's way easier. Once you're there, you click support now, enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipes for the buffalo chicken meatballs with the yogurt blue cheese dip and the Greek yogurt ranch dressing, plus all the details for your live Q&A, just you and me. Remember, last chance, jump in if you're debating. Okay, Nicole, spotlight on you. Will you share your story? Because like so many of us, we end up in this space a lot through our own, I call it a saga for me, but, and then also about, creating health, wealth, and wisdom.
Absolutely. Yes. So I heard once that we most often go into the fields where we are the most messed up or were the most messed up. And that is absolutely true for me. So to give you a little background, about 12 years ago, you could have found me endlessly counting and burning calories like it was my job because I wrongly believed that the size of my body and my worth were correlated. I was underfed, overtrained, and had a terrible relationship with food. I refused to eat out. I logged everything I ate in MyFitnessPal daily, like we're talking even vitamins. And I even snuck out of my house to exercise. It was bad. At the time, my behaviors had me on a really, really negative trajectory. And it wasn't until I lost my period for over 3 years and I started fracturing bones. That's right. I fractured a hip and my spine in my 20s that I was forced to face the facts. I needed to change my relationship with food or I was going to end up in an even darker and more dangerous place. I don't want to make it sound easy because it did take years, but I gradually moved away from all of the diet culture messaging that I had previously subscribed to. I stopped tracking and weighing in completely because that's what was best for me at the time. And I started embracing the all foods fit mentality that I have today. Thanks to a heck of a lot of therapy, continuing education, and a lot of internal work, I changed my eating habits and movement habits from ones that were harming my health to ones that promote and support my health. And that's essentially exactly what I do with my one-on-one coaching clients. I teach them how to do the same, unsubscribe from diet culture, create healthy eating habits that they can see themselves sticking with for life, and if applicable, create sustainable fat loss that gives more than it takes. No restriction, no crash dieting.
100%. And I want to ask because I think your story is actually so common. And I'm curious, right? Like you mentioned, right? You fractured your hip and your spine and lost your period. And I know that this has impacted a lot of people too. And I'm curious, like somebody else from the outside might be like, why didn't you see it? But also, what was the breaking point? Like, did somebody have a conversation with you? Like, how did you come to being ready to make that shift?
And I think that's honestly what it's about, Jen, is when you say, how did you not see it? I personally was not at a place where I was willing, ready, or able to create change. So through a lot of the unpacking that I did, I realized that my very unhealthy relationship with food had nothing to do with food and had everything to do with a perceived lack of control in my life. So the long story, I'll spare you, but I, in college, started having to navigate a big family upheaval. So I grew up in what I would have called the perfect family. Had a younger brother, the dog, the beautiful family, parents who were together. At this time, my brother started struggling with substance use, threw me for a huge loop. I had no knowledge of substance use, the disease that is addiction. I didn't know how to help him. And so I felt this huge lack of control. And what could I control? How many calories I ate every day and how many calories I burned every day and what I wouldn't allow myself to eat and what I would allow myself to eat. I could hyper control those things. And so food or my obsession with it was protecting me from this loss of control that I had in my relationship with my family and my brother at the time. So that was overpowering the detriment to my health that said relationship with food was causing. So I wasn't able to see the negatives because it was such a crutch. It was such a coping mechanism for me that I felt like I needed. And I didn't know how to do anything without. So I didn't really have a light bulb moment. I get this question a lot, but I do think it was a lot of dominoes that over time just stacked up to be too much. And finally, I kind of had to face the facts. Certainly a month of bed rest after I fractured my hip did quite a number on my mindset. I was laying in bed. I had to crutch around my house and I was still counting almonds at the time. Like I was pushing my lunch into the bedroom on a cookie sheet because I couldn't carry it. Obviously, I only had one leg and was using crutches. And at that point I was like, what are you doing, Nicole? Like this is just so sad. I had to basically put my life on hold because of how I abused my body. And here I am still freaking out over the calories in a couple of almonds. Like I knew something needed to change. I think the biggest pivotal moment for me was when I went to my OBGYN. I hadn't had a cycle in 3+ years. And I thought she was going to perform an exam and say, hey, here's what's going on with your body. Let's do some blood work. Let's figure out why you're not menstruating. She sat me down and basically said, I don't need to perform an exam on you. I know exactly why you're not menstruating. You have an eating disorder. And I was still in denial. I remember driving home with my mom saying, I eat so healthy. She just doesn't understand. Like I just eat foods that, are healthier than what most people eat. And I was lying to myself as well as to other people. But I think that for me started turning the gears of like, really? A health professional is not even needing to perform an exam or do anything further, because just by looking at me, she can see that my behaviors are harming my body. And so, like I said, I think over time, that was really when I started acknowledging something's got to give here.
Yeah. And it's interesting you point out too, right? Like somebody else can see it. And I think for all of us in this space, other people see things we don't see. Like even if we have this dysmorphia, right, physically, one of the things that I see all the time with my clients, and I'm curious if you see this too, is almost a dysmorphia is the wrong word, but I want to use it here. Like a dysmorphia when it comes to our own behaviors and our own victories, like the progress we deny because we think it's going to keep us compliant. You know what I mean? Does that resonate with you at all?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we're just not ready to see a situation for what it is. Like we're so deeply rooted in our behaviors, even if they are unhealthy, even if they are disordered. And so, the expression, you can lead a horse to water. I do believe that when we look at the stages of change, sometimes we are not at all ready to create the change that we need to create in order to live a healthy, happy life. Because like I said, we're just too attached to the coping mechanisms that we have, even if they're harming us. And so through my own experience and working with many, many, many women who are in similar situations, I don't think that guilting those individuals or shaming those individuals is helpful
1,000%
at all. Like we can set an example for them of a healthier lifestyle. We can be there for them if and when they decide to take the next step. But I know that there's a lot of coaches out there who would choose to go the shame, judgment, guilt route. I'm not one of them. I just don't think it's helpful.
Oh, no. So you mentioned something in there, and that is the tools that we think are helping us, but maybe aren't. And in your story, you also talked about like meticulously counting both calories you consumed and calories you burned. So let's talk about tracking, right? Like you mentioned MyFitnessPal. To what extent do you feel like using some of these tools contributed to the disordered behavior?
That's a great question. And honestly, it's sort of like what came first, the chicken or the egg. I think because of my personality, I'm firstborn, type A, elder, millennial daughter, all the things. I think because of my personality and my circumstances, I would have ended in a very similar situation, regardless of whether I started with the tracking or I started with the diet culture dogma and then led me to tracking. So you might think that because of my personal experience with apps like MyFitnessPal, there are many others that are similar. Because my experience is mostly negative, in the height of my most messed up relationship with food, I logged every day. I never missed a day. I never exceeded 999 calories. Why? Who knows, right? Like that just made sense in my brain. And I tried quitting the app many, many times because even I could realize, wow, me trying to like sneakily log while I'm eating with my family, like this can't be healthy, right? This can't be the way that I want to spend the rest of my life. I tried quitting, but I failed because I felt so dependent on the app. I felt like I needed it. So there were times in my life where I even lied to my accountability partners and I'm like, yeah, I didn't log, I'm not logging right now. And I would, because I felt like even if it was retroactively at the end of the day, it just gave me confidence and it gave me a level of validation that my day was quote good or bad. So you might think, oh gosh, you must hate all tracking apps. I don't. So now that I'm able to step back, now that I'm a decade plus removed, my relationship with food is completely healed. I believe that tracking apps like MyFitnessPal are entirely neutral. And it's how we use them and our motivation for using them that can either be helpful or harmful. I have seen clients, I even coach clients who use apps and walk away more informed. They walk away with amazing feedback that then they can apply to their relationships with food, to their nutrition strategies. and they're better for it. And it's a great tool. It's a great source of accountability. I have also worked with clients whose stories are very similar to my own. It causes obsession. It causes dependency. It causes insecurity when they can't have it. And so I like to think of tracking a little bit like a blood panel. I believe that it can reveal super helpful data that we can then take action on to improve our health and make body composition change if we choose to. But when we become dependent on it, we have then taken a potentially helpful tool and turned it into a harmful one. So again, tracking apps, totally neutral. I think we have to assess how we're using them and why we're using them. So usually I will encourage clients and ask them, are you noticing that you're using your tracking app to judge or punish your food choices? Are you relying on your tracking app to tell you exactly how much to eat rather than learning how to listen to your hunger and fullness cues? Are you feeling overly restricted by the parameters that your tracking app provides for you based on a generic equation, rather than gradually progressing towards a healthier diet and or lifestyle? Are you feeling as though you have to log in order to continue making progress or maintaining progress? And if yes to any of those, you may have a relationship with your tracking app that needs a little work. It may be more harmful than helpful. And like I said, there's no shame in that because it was a tool that maybe served you for a time. And now you're acknowledging it's just not serving you anymore.
Right. And it might be time for another tool. Sorry to interrupt you, right? It might not be abandoning all data collection because I call it the same thing, right? It's about collecting this information so that we have data to interpret with feedback and have a clearer picture. So what are some other tools if the apps, well, I guess I have so many questions. How can we help determine, right? You shared with us, right? These questions to ask that might be an indication that our relationship is potentially challenged, right? Mm-hmm. What are some alternatives?
That's a great question. I think it depends on the individual, which is such a gross answer, right? You just want a concrete answer. And here I am saying it depends. It really does depend on the individual. What goal are you trying to reach? So let's say, hypothetically, you are calorie counting because you're wanting to lose body fat. A lot of people use a tool like MyFitnessPal as accountability to stay within their calorie goal, to hit their protein threshold, to shoot for a fiber goal, etc. So I think what we can do is take a look at some other metrics that can confirm or deny that we are in fact making progress towards our fat loss goal. Some people like to use the scale. Others prefer to use, girth measurements, progress photos, etc. But when it comes to the food specifics, which is often why we rely on apps, tracking apps like MyFitnessPal, we can also track our compliance or our consistency. So this is something most of my clients do, where we look at the meals and we ask, okay, at most meals, how often are you prioritizing a palm or 2 palms, 25 grams to 50 grams, depending on what exactly you want to track. Some people love numbers, some people hate numbers. How often are you prioritizing protein at those meals? Is it happening 80% of the time or is it happening 20% of the time? If it's happening 20% of the time, is there a way we can increase 20 to 30? How can we increase that compliance? Because we know protein needs to grow in order for you to stay satisfied and in order for you to be more likely to stay within your caloric threshold. You don't need to know exactly how many calories you're eating to know that you're more satiated, but how often is that happening? You don't need an app to tell you that. That's one way that you could do it. You could also take a look at how you're preparing in advance of the week. So most of us are more likely to adhere to an appropriate amount of calories if we have nourishing, high volume, prepared food. Are we stocked in our fridge, in our freezer, in our pantry? Are we doing any type of ingredient prep or any type of meal prep or menu planning for the week? You could plan out a goal supportive menu for the week that you know is likely going to move the needle closer towards your fat loss goal. And as long as you adhere to that menu, most of the time, again, maybe something comes up, whatever, you go out and grab pizza with friends, you're going to make progress. You don't necessarily need the app. What I like to remind a lot of people, and this was very helpful for me at the time, is when you're using the app, you're probably very numerically driven. So I need the app because I need to know that I got 100 and X grams of protein every day. And I need to know that I ate X calories every day. And so you start to freak out about letting go of that. And I like to remind my clients that all of the information in the app can translate to portions. You don't need to know exactly how many calories you're eating. But if you do know that 20 grams of carbohydrates in the app equates to half a cup of rice, quinoa, beans, fruit, lentils, oats, whatever, then you know, okay, I'm getting about 20 grams of carbs in this one serving. So if you're shooting for X grams of carbs a day, just translate that to servings. And then you can just think about how many servings you ate throughout the day. Same goes for protein. If you're shooting for 100 grams of protein in the app, and one serving, one palm size serving is 25 grams, aim for 4 palms of protein throughout the day. A lot of people find that's much more flexible. It's much more life-giving. And there's a lot more flexibility there with freedom of not needing to pull out the app and still feeling confident that you hit your protein goal for the day.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we are like the same person. So I'm a big fan, right? Using your hands, just portion sizes, understanding how to build a meal, the rest of it's going to fall into place, right? And most of the time, are we eating plates that look like that? Great, check the box and move on. One of the things that I see all the time too is that writing it down helps people get it out of their head and potentially feel less obsessed because they're not using all this brain capacity to do that tracking mentally. And so I do have clients who will use some apps or the Notes app in their phone, or like we'll sometimes just do pictures of the plate because these days everybody takes pictures of their food, right? I'm curious, but then also some of these apps are offering information that you didn't ask for or didn't need in the process of trying to capture the information you do want. Are there any that you found to be particularly helpful or adaptable based on what somebody's looking for them to do?
That's a good question. And honestly, I think you could abuse any app if you wanted to. So these apps are designed to give you more information than the next app, right? And it's probably going to give you far more data than you even hoped to glean from tracking your food. So I think it comes down to the individual and asking the individual, do you feel like it could be helpful for you to log in an app and only take a look at protein and fiber for the next week of tracking, for the next 3 to 5 days, whatever, so that we can get some information? We can do a little food audit and collect data. Or do you think that by seeing the total calorie number or the carbohydrate number, because I don't know, in your dieting history, you learned that carbs are bad and that's still a message you're working at unpacking, that's going to totally trip you up? I think it depends on the individual. MyFitnessPal tends to be very popular. I don't know that it's better than others. I think it's just been around the block for quite a period of time.
Agreed.
Chronometer is another very popular one with my clients. And then there are several others that I don't think like take precedence. I think honestly, you need something much more simplistic than you think you need. So you don't need the paid version. You don't need something that's super fancy schmancy. I do know that a lot of clients who use tracking apps like the barcode scanning feature, which I believe MyFitnessPal just moved to the paid version. So if that's something that's really important to you because you eat processed foods and that saves you time from logging, you can literally just scan the barcode, then that's something maybe to consider. But I think it comes down to the individual. If you can just look at a couple of those numbers and use those as feedback, as opposed to getting so caught up in everything that the app provides for you, then great. I think it could be a super helpful tool. I think the most important question to ask, Jen, and you might be getting to this, is could we use the tool for a time and then transition away from it and you feel good? Because in my 10 plus years of being a nutrition coach and working with clients, I have not had a single client tell me that they wanted to track or count calories for the rest of their lives. Like, I think we can all agree that it's something. Maybe we feel that way when we're dependent on tracking like in my disordered eating days, I might've been like, yeah, I'll do this forever. No, I was really in an unwell headspace. I don't want to do that forever. I want to be, in my old lady body, feeling really confident about what I'm eating with my grandkids, not feeling like I have to get validation from an app. So if it's something that you feel like you could use, pull out of your toolbox, get some helpful information from, and then apply that information moving forward without the app, great. I think we can use it. But if it's something where you feel like you're going to be attached to it and it's going to be really hard to let go, that's a much longer process where we have to, gradually expose you to, let's log breakfast one day and then not log it the next day. Let's literally eat the same thing you ate yesterday for lunch, but not log it this time, just to build up this confidence that you can eat something, you can make a great choice and not log it, and nothing terrible or catastrophic is going to happen.
Yeah. What you're describing is what I call unconsciously competent, right? That my objective is for people to become unconsciously competent.
Yeah.
I think some of what you're speaking to also with the apps is the way we almost have this like very reinforcing, almost self-fulfilling prophecy of the diet culture, And so I want to shift into that conversation after we take a break for our partner for this episode. Good?
Good.
All right, big thanks to Snap Cleaning Products for supporting Salad with a Side of Fries. Make household and industrial cleaning a snap with their eco-friendly, economical, multi-purpose Snap products. Snap's concentrated multi-purpose formulas perform light to industrial strength jobs all in one bottle. Snap products give you the cleaning power of a variety of cleaners, saving you time, money, and valuable storage space. And Snap products are developed with the environment in mind, using plant-based ingredients that are biodegradable, phosphate-free, non-toxic, and bottled in recyclable containers. So with our conversation on unsubscribing today, I feel like I have unsubscribed from a lot of the conventional things, one of which are the store-bought cleaning products. I use Snap. It's like the easy button for cleaning. The triple enzyme laundry detergent actually breaks down stains to remove them. And by the way, that one's just $13.95 for 40 ounces and does up to 80 loads of laundry. Like, it's actually free of chemicals and additives. And that one also doesn't have a scent. If you do want something with a scent, they have the Snap Essentials laundry packs that are just like a fresh scent. And that one, they're in the little sachets, right? Is that what they're called? Anyway, that one's $15.95 for 24 loads. I highly recommend all of them. If you want to just do like a clean fell swoop, like all of your household cleaning products and upgrade them, you could do the Snap Pack for just $89.95. And all these prices are before your discount. Because you're a Salad with a Side of Fries listener, you get 10% off and free shipping. So simply text the word CLEAN, CLEAN, to 844-947-4846. You'll receive the link and coupon code right to your phone. Again, simply text the word CLEAN, CLEAN, to 844-947-4846 to try Snap. In particular, the triple enzyme laundry detergent or the Snap Pack. You'll get 10% off plus free shipping. This is a toll-free number. Standard text and data rates may apply. Okay, Nicole, let's talk about diet culture and maybe more specifically toxic diet culture. Right. The floor is yours.
I was going to say, tell me, where do we begin? Ugh.
I know.
So diet culture, I think we'll start at the beginning, worships thinness and equates it to health and moral virtue, which means we can spend our entire lives feeling irreparably broken just because we don't look like an impossibly thin ideal. Diet culture promotes weight loss as a means of attaining this higher status. So we feel compelled to spend an enormous amount of money and time and energy trying to shrink our bodies. That's why it's $1 billion industry. Diet culture promotes weight loss at all costs. The moral value of food, the idea that there's good and bad foods, a right and a wrong way to eat, and the discrimination of anyone whose body doesn't fit into this narrow ideal. So talking about nutrition education, talking about being in a diet or a fat loss phase is not the same as toxic diet culture. Diet culture messaging includes things like how someone looks is an accurate indicator of their health. The size, shape, and weight of someone reflects their worth. The concept of good and bad foods. I'm bad if I eat a cookie because cookies are bad. I'm good if I eat a salad because salads are good. There's a right and a wrong way to look and eat. Body fat is bad. Carbohydrates are bad. Sugar is bad. Hate and shame are good motivators for change. We talked about that one previously in our conversation. Weight loss is always good and weight gain is always bad. If you can't eat perfectly and you aren't trying hard enough, you don't have enough willpower. See the episode that you were on the Health, Wealth, and Wisdom podcast. These are messages that come from toxic diet culture that honestly are so ingrained in media, in any type of like nutrition, health, professional content that many of us have absorbed these as truths, even though they are not. And that's where things can get really damaging and really detrimental, because if we don't work to deconstruct these limiting beliefs, they can start to impact how we feel in our own bodies, how we see and value other people in different bodies, and of course, how we feed ourselves.
Preach. Okay, so two things. One is I want everybody to also recognize that your doctors also, many of them, have subscribed to the same idea that health is a size. And so recognizing that we have to be our own best advocates in every situation, including with our healthcare practitioners and maybe especially with our healthcare practitioners. Because I feel like for a long time, even in like mainstream, like media even, we got to all bodies-ish for a little while. And now with all of these weight loss drugs, we are back in the other direction of you are not well unless you are Barbie.
Exactly. I mean, I grew up in the 2000s, right, where heroin chic was a thing. Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen, right, the Special K commercial, like you name it, it happened. And I think now we're seeing the return of that cycle. Low-rise jeans are back in style, and that is diet culture at its finest, right? And the medical field is no exception to the rule. I actually just talked about this on a recent episode of the Health, Wealth, and Wisdom podcast, because we were talking about how BMI is a really poor indicator of health when used in isolation. But BMI, the body mass index, is pretty much the sole metric that the medical field uses. And so I've had many, many, many clients sadly tell me stories of going into the doctor's office for a sore throat or something like a sinus infection. And the doctor comes in and is like, you know what? Your BMI puts you in the overweight or obese category. You should lose weight. Clearly their weight has nothing to do with their sinus infection or their sore throat, but that's what the provider is hyperfixating on because they think in an effort to help their patient get healthiest, it must mean that they need to live in a smaller body. So you're right. We absolutely need to be our own advocate in the medical field, but also when we're consuming social media content.
Yes. First of all, everybody, we did an episode, Perception versus Reality, where we talked about kind of what happens in our brain, like a little bit of the neuroscience of comparison, right? And why is it that we see these things and start to compare and make what somebody else is doing something about us? What are some of the things that you recommend or things that you help your clients do to be stronger against all of these messages? Because it's overwhelming.
It is. And I do want to just reemphasize that it is a process. So unfortunately, it's not something that we can just say, oh, I'm going to work at unsubscribing from diet culture and like a light switch, we stop struggling with these limiting beliefs because many of us have been submersed in these diet culture methodologies for decades sometimes. So a couple of things that I like to remind myself and my clients of. One, who benefits from me thinking or believing that this is true? I already mentioned the diet culture industry is a $1 billion industry. They want to keep you sick and unhappy. So you are motivated by shame, hate, guilt, self-hatred, whatever it is. And you're like, I need to change. I'm going to go on this crash diet. I'm going to take this weight loss supplement. And it works for a short period of time because calorie deficit. And then when it stops working, I feel like I'm a moral failure. Something is wrong with me. I don't have what it takes. And then I start looking for the next thing because there must be something out there I'm missing. There must be a magic pill, a magic solution. Meanwhile,
the problem is me, not this thing that was an inappropriate solution.
Exactly. The system keeps getting fed. We keep plunking money into the system that is just keeping us in the same spot. So if I see something and I feel like, oh, okay, is this true? Is this not true? I like to ask myself, who benefits from me believing that this is true? If diet culture is at play, I don't benefit. I don't benefit from me believing that I am broken. There's something wrong with my body. I also like to encourage clients to look inward. So regardless of what this is telling me, carbs are bad, sugar is bad, fruit has, terrible things in it. You should stop eating apples and bananas. What foods leave me feeling best? If I am the best person to collect feedback on my body and I try to throw out all of the rules that I know to be, quote, true because of what I've learned in the past, what does my body feel good eating? What gives me more energy? What leaves me feeling able to keep up with my kids or work out in the gym or have a clear headspace? Who are the people and the platforms in my life that leave me feeling good? Because like I said, anyone who is sharing true evidence-based nutrition education with you should leave you feeling better. And maybe they're sharing some hard truths with you that are really hard to hear, but they're giving you tangible takeaways of how you can actively enhance your health and your quality of life. Diet culture doesn't. Diet culture leaves you feeling like a piece of garbage so that you re-up for the next fad diet. So who are the people that leave me feeling like shit? And if I find those people, unsubscribe, unfollow, right? I don't need that in my life. But how can I surround myself with more positive voices? I think that's also very, very helpful. The only kind of detox I'm for is a social media detox. And how do I want to show up in my life and in my body? What are the steps I need to take in order to get there? So one question I like asking, especially new clients who come to me with oftentimes a very lengthy history of dieting, I like to ask, how has that worked for you?
Yep.
And Oftentimes we think, oh, I've tried so many things. I've tried keto and intermittent fasting, and I've tried paleo and Whole30, and I've tried 75 hard. And it feels like we've tried all these things, when in reality, we've tried the same thing with different names and slightly different rules 170 times, right?
Yeah.
So if we stand back and say, okay, how has that worked for you? And we're honest with ourselves, usually we can identify, it's got me on a hamster wheel. Right? I'm not really getting very far. I'm not making progress towards the version of myself I want to be in the relationship or in the body that I want to have long term. So think about the version of yourself that you want to be with the relationship of food you want to have and the body that feels, looks, and performs really freaking well. What are the habits that that version of you embodies? It's probably not crash dieting. It's probably not taking the latest supplement that some influencer somewhere is advocating for. It's probably not cutting out a food group that leaves you feeling pretty freaking good, right? So it's kind of bringing the ownership back into ourselves as opposed to looking to an external app, an external locus of control to tell us what I should or shouldn't eat.
I love that. And the piece that's sticking with me on it, because I know there are people who are going, yes, I agree. I don't want to be in those diet culture conversations. And I want to lose weight, as they say, right? I say remove fat, right? Release what we've been carrying around that we don't need. And so a lot of people, I think, can feel like it's two sides of the same coin. And I think what I'm hearing from you is that it's actually a different coin.
Yes. I am pro body autonomy. So if you want to create a leaner body composition and that is healthy for you to do, I'm for it. I will help you get there. I think how we do it is where the coins differentiate, right?
Yes.
Am I doing it from a place of hate, guilt, and shame? Or am I doing it from a place of love and respect of and for my body? Am I doing it in a way that is going to be short-lived because I'm punishing my body with exercise and I'm restricting food? Or am I doing it from a place where I am nourishing my body with appropriate food and moving in a way that feels really good for me and my body that I can see myself doing long-term? Fat loss is not evil, right? Wanting to create body composition change is not evil. It's a completely neutral thing. Again, it's how we go about it and why we're going about it.
Yeah. And I think that's maybe the best place to put a pin in this conversation and say, like, take that energy into the tracking that you do and whatever tool you use.
Yes. Yeah. Does this feel like it's helping to move you further in the direction that you want to go and help you build confidence in yourself? Because remember, the goal is to one day be in an old lady body, not rely on a tracking app, and feel completely confident. Heck, to be in like a young woman body and feel completely confident with what you're eating, where you're eating, who you're eating around, and not need to fear that you're going to mess up all of your progress or, air quotes, ruin your results. And so if the way that you're using tracking apps or any type of tool is supporting that, fantastic. If it's not supporting that and it feels like it's pulling you further away, maybe that's when we need to revisit.
Love it. All right. I think it's time for a rapid fire off-topic questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Bring it on.
All right. What's the best thing you've done for your health this week? What's the naughtiest thing you've done related to your health this week?
Ooh, okay. I think it's one and the same. So I am a big reader. I am an introvert through and through, and I extrovert all day long. I also have an 18-month-old toddler at home, and we are thick as thieves right now. So I really cannot do anything without him shadowing me. I love it. But I also thrive on alone time. So when I get alone time, I feel like I have to soak it up. So the naughtiest thing I've done this week is ignore my very, very helpful bedtime to stay up reading because I feel like, oh my gosh, I'm finally alone. This is the only time I get to myself. I need to capitalize on it. And the best thing that I did for my health this week is honor that bedtime. Even though I was mid-chapter, not ready to shut the book down, I said, you know what, I'm going to feel so much better tomorrow if I do this. So you know what? It's some days we win, some days we lose.
Yeah, exactly. It all fits. All right. If you weren't a nutrition coach, what would you do?
Oh, okay. So before I went to school to become my master's is in nutrition, physical activity, and public health. And I did that after I realized the transformation that I had undergone myself, and I wanted so passionately to help other people go through similar transformations, I was headed to become a psychologist. So that is probably what I would be doing today.
I wanted to be a psychologist when I was a kid.
Really?
Yeah. Again, we're the same person. Okay. Favorite book on any topic other than your area of expertise, or it could be a fiction book, and you're a reader.
Oh, I'm a reader, but this is an impossible question to answer.
You can give us a couple.
Oh, I feel like I would have to scroll back through like my Kindle downloads to honestly tell you. I do love though. So whenever someone asks me this question, I think outside of like pleasure reading. So love that. Hit me up on Instagram if you want my recommendations for like books that are binge worthy that way. But I think the best like beach book or travel book, if you're getting ready to like spend time in an airport or in the sand somewhere, is Glennon Doyle's
Yes.
Untamed. That's good.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think everyone should read that.
All right. If you could cure one ailment, disease, or sickness, what would it be?
Okay, so I mentioned a little bit about my family's history. It would have to be addiction. It would have to be addiction. I think addiction is so far-reaching. It's so misunderstood. A lot of us see it as a moral failing, and it's not. It's a disease, and there is so much more that needs to be done with regards to how we treat it and the resources that people have available to them. And addiction looks like many different things. So a lot of people feel like they're addicted to food, and food is a little different because obviously we need food to survive and it's very normalized. The same can be said of alcohol, but with regards to especially like other substances, yeah, I wish. I lost my brother to substance use, so that would be what I would want to do.
I know. If you were a superhero, what would be your superpower?
This one's really stumping me. I feel like I want to think about this one for a long time before I come. It's like, what wish would you wish for if you had one wish and you couldn't wish for more wishes? You know, like, I don't want to waste it. Like, I really want to think about this and come up with the right answer. What I can tell you is what I have always wanted to, like, if we think about all the powers that a superhero could have, being invisible tops my list. I think there are just so many things that you could do, so much information that you could get that could better help so many people if you had the power of invisibility.
I like it. All right. What's your biggest pet peeve?
Loud chewing.
I know.
This is a killer for me. I'm all for eating, right? Like clients come on coaching calls and they're like, sorry, I didn't get to finish my lunch. I'm like, girlfriend, this is a food accepting place. You eat your food. And it never bothers me there. But I grew up with a dad who has extremely thin cheeks, or at least I hope that's what the issue was. I don't know. It wasn't as though he would be chewing with his mouth open. His mouth would be closed. And I just, it's like nails on a chalkboard. I just can't handle it.
That is so funny. Thin cheeks. Okay, I'm dead. Last one. In your opinion, what's the next frontier in wellness?
Oh, well, have you heard of the cozy cardio trend? Okay, I actually love that. I think it's making exercise more accessible to people.
Share it with everybody in case people aren't familiar.
Exactly. So I think it's a TikTok thing where it originated. I'm not a TikTok star by any stretch of the imagination, but occasionally I keep up with trends that originate there. And cozy cardio is like where you wake up in the morning and you keep your PJs on and you light a candle in your room, and maybe you're watching your favorite bingeable TV show and you whip out your walking pad, and with your iced coffee, you're just like at a leisurely pace getting your steps in, right? Like you're doing some cardio, but you are so cozy. Like you didn't have to worry about going to the gym. You don't have to worry about getting sweaty. You don't have to worry about putting on tight workout pants. Like I appreciate a good, hard, sweaty workout as much as the next person. However, I do think that there is a big misconception that you have to like go hard or go home in order for it to count. And so I love the idea of cozy cardio. So I hope that the next frontier is making healthy eating and fun movement more accessible and less elite. Because I think that so many of us feel like healthy food has to be the most expensive, and I have to buy all of these green supplements, and I have to wear exclusively Lululemon in order to be the healthy version. No, you don't. No, you don't. So I guess cozy cardio and accessible, cost-effective, healthy eating.
Love it. Nicole, thank you again for being here. Tell everybody how to connect with you, where to listen to your show, all the good stuff.
Oh gosh, Jen, thanks for having me. This was so fun. I am always hanging out on Instagram at Nutrition with Nicole. Send me a DM. I am the one who answers all of them, so it'll just be me that you're chatting with. And if you are into podcasts, I imagine you are if you're listening to this one, please come check out the Health, Wealth, and Wisdom podcast. It's my favorite place to coach, because you can only fit so much in an Instagram caption, and podcast episodes just allow for so much more nuance. So definitely start with episode, did you say it was 230, Jen?
239?
239?
September 2023, you'll find it.
Okay. where we were talking about what to do when you feel like you lack self-control or willpower. Definitely start there because then you can hear Jenn. And yeah, come hang out and listen to the show.
Love it. Thank you again for being here, sharing your perspective and your time and energy. Just appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, friends. On Friday, our nutrition nugget is about hugs. So yes, like when two people wrap their arms around each other, hugs offer tremendous health benefits. And while we've heard laughter is the best medicine, and you all loved that nutrition nugget, we're now going to talk about hugs and see if maybe hugs are potentially better medicine. So tune in on Friday for that. Be sure wherever you're listening now, click the plus sign or the follow button, and then your app will alert you when it goes live on Friday. Well, as always, everybody, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Please send a message. I want to hear your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Nicole, thank you again for being here. Just appreciate you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate you too, Jenn. This was fun.
Awesome. And friends, if you are not already, join our membership by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries. This shows your support for this podcast and this community, but most importantly, it supports your health. You'll get this week's recipes for the buffalo chicken meatballs, the yogurt blue cheese dip, and the Greek yogurt ranch dressing. Plus, all the details to book your live Q&A, which is a one-on-one just you and me, last chance of the quarter, so jump in if you're debating. Until next week, consider this your permission to unsubscribe from anything that which doesn't truly serve you and your health in the long run. Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it and you are worth it. Happy healthy.